Now the sad thing is that I've completely forgotten what my plan was.
But
that is very sad.
But it
was so excited.
It was going to doom us all anyway, so that's okay by me.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to Barbaric Psychedelic. And the setup, as you may remember, is that you have found yourselves back in the crystal caverns, or tunnels, or vortice interstices. Ooh, I kind of like that. If you will remember, I had told you during play that Uri and Iru had not come with you, and I was wrong. They did. James had asked, well, what about the dialogue, the sensitive dialogue that I delivered in the interim? And the answer to that is they didn't hear it.
Awesome.
So now you guys came in slightly different ways, and for a moment there, it was just a little bit iffy who was next to who in coming through. So as I recall, that Runt had actually come through with Iru.
Yeah.
And that Ineku had done the same, whereas Azelia had come in with Uri.
Yes,
and
that's
so right. the three of you have seen each other by basically looking the way that no one ever looked before upon arrival. And then but the two of them are very focused on what you might think of as the ordinary way, the ordinary way to go. So strangely, neither is aware of the other and is only aware of the individuals who came with them. Iru, who considers Runt basically an enemy and who has just been harmed, if I am not mistaken, by you. And
it could have been worse.
Yeah. And then also Ineku, I'm looking back, and I don't think you attacked either of them. The only person who hurt either of them was Runt.
I think that is correct.
Right. And so yeah, Iru is going to position himself with you basically, in a combative mode. Both, I know that he's taken some damage, and I think that James, Runt, you took some damage too. You took damage from Uri striking you.
Both.
Yeah, from both of them. Yeah.
Depending on whether or not I've had time to exert a healing surge, I think I'm more or less back in decent shape. But yeah, I was hit, not bloodied, but close.
At the moment, I'm going to say that the encounter, because the encounter is with them and you guys all together, that particular encounter is not technically concluded.
Okay, so we're back to where we were then. Okay.
Right, so you're still encounter-ish. And so
this makes my plan harder.
Yeah, so the and then Uri, looking at Azelia,
yes,
is now that basically you had gone and grabbed her, filched her crystal away, if I'm not mistaken.
I bluffed her into activating.
That's right. Okay, so she actually is going to look at you and say, "All right, here we are, and we don't have much chance, but maybe if we can just get through that door before the Guardian gets to us, maybe the Guardian will be, She shakes her head and says, I just don't see any other way. We're just going to have to get through that damn door.
Doors are meant to be open, so I think we should give it a try.
All right. So,
Ron, are we within range of Gordon's telepathy?
you are. Gordon, you've got 5 squares, right?
Correct.
Okay. You have to shift. You would have to move a bit to get over to the distance to be able to include Agelia. It's not impossible, but just letting you know.
Okay. Yeah. I'm doing that right away, and I'm pointing or doing whatever it is that I want Iniku to listen in and do his whole Martian Manhunter Jean Grey team networking thing, which hopefully is easier than Skype or Discord.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Oh shit! Come on, reconnect, friend.
Exactly. I can
turn
see
it
his
on,
ego image.
turn it off.
I
turn
can't
it
hear
on
his
again.
ego image. That's right. They never do that on the shows or the comics. So I'm not going to do the voice right now. I thought about doing a funnier voice for Runt's interior monologue, but basically Runt's attitude about all of this is that everything has just basically gone to hell in a handbasket, and that we need to basically make time flow backwards by reestablishing the status quo as it was hundreds of years ago. That there is apparently a crystalline monster that is about to erupt out of this thing that hit the landmass. That monster is going to erupt in any second now. It is going to find all kinds of other crazy monsters fighting all around it. Apparently it's been traumatized in its womb, or whatever the crystalline equivalent of a womb is. It's going to be a bad fucking scene. And that Iniku apparently is another crystalline being who also has super persuasive power to talk to people and get them to calm the hell down. And so the idea would be, Runt's idea would be to have Iniku somehow persuade the crystalline thing to essentially retract back into the womb for as long as it can, at which point we still get a problem, because Runt noticed, and I presume the others noticed, that both Uri and Iru are unstable and essentially psychotic, and if they have access to this crystal thing at any point in the future, their objectives are inhuman to the extent that word applies to this setting. They've got some sort of deification apotheosis complex. That's my gig. That's not theirs. But more importantly, if either one of them gets their hands on this, it's going to be a mess. Because as Runt tried to communicate when he was having this weird vision thing, the two of them are meant to function together, and somehow they got split off. And during that time they diverged. They're essentially no longer sane. They're no longer in the right relationship to each other. And so if either one of them, or even both, somehow get a hold of this crystalline thing, it's going to be just as bad as if the crystalline thing erupts raw, and formed. The good news is that any damage that is done to one of them apparently is done to the other. The other good news is that they are plant creatures, and so that evolved from this plant consciousness, and apparently in a natural way. And if you take out one of them, you take out both of them, and then in 100 years or so they come back in a more wholesome, natural form, and they can deal with the crystal or whatever the hell's going on there the way they're supposed to, without us having to worry about psychotic plant wizards screwing around with psionic monsters. So this is basically the murder hobo moment where everyone just decides, fuck it, let's kill everybody. But if we can get the Guardian to do that for us, I wouldn't feel quite as bad. But I think that may be the situation we're in. And I'm sorry for talking a lot about this, but I don't know how much happens via telepathy. But that's essentially Runt's plan at this point.
Runt, what happened to you? How did you gain the arcane mutterings power?
It happens.
Where did
I
this
spend myself in a carnal fashion, I see things.
Where did this wisdom come from?
He did have an acid trip with a forest spirit.
Yes, that's exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Gordon is aware. Aneko
Yes.
maybe not.
Mhm.
Oddly, what you say, while it is nonsense, makes sense.
Thank you. This is
The feeling is mutual.
However, and he actually say this out loud to, I think it was Uri who was talking about we need to try and get through the door. You realize the door goes nowhere. We can get to the other side by walking around.
This is the first time that somebody has communicated across the perceived barrier or fail to perceive that each of them has. So Uri just does like the double take of all double takes, and and turns and sees you, and her jaw just kind of drops. Yeah, and you too, right?
hi, baby.
And looks at all of you, and looks at Azalea and says, "How did you do this?"
Perhaps the crystals had aligned correctly.
Mhm. And so she looks to Iru and says, "We're here together." And he's looking, and he's just like, he remember he was all like combat crouched and everything against Runt. He kind of relaxes and stands straight up, flat-footed, looking at her, and says, "But that's impossible." In a trailing off, not convincing himself voice. So
You're welcome.
yeah, really. So the question is, guys, we could go into kind of a combat mode. This is classic Merc. Anybody taking notes? That here we are in a tricky situation where timing of dialogue may matter. And we have an initiative system for that exact thing, but that is associated with combat. So ordinarily in dialogue scenes, you don't worry about initiative. You just say whoever talks. So at the moment, I'm going to stay in that. But the minute it looks like reactions of who knows what and says what and does what starts to matter in terms of timing, we're going to shift to initiative, even if it's not an attack.
Okay.
So that's kind of where I'm hovering right now regarding roll initiative, right? Because unfortunately, the words roll initiative are associated with, okay, everybody shut up, let's fight.
And that's not necessarily
that's not
the way
what
you
I
mean
mean
right
right here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, however, conflict of interest is very well in place potentially. So that's your situation. Iru and Uri are painfully, with difficulty adjusting to, looking at what they thought had been a blank wall every single time they got here. And and the three of you, therefore, and the three of you have just communicated. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's
happened?
So. Yeah, so what's happened is that Iniku has basically transmitted. I'm not quite sure just how much of a little like broadcast conversation, open platform chat room your head is. I'm not quite sure that's the case. What I understand is that you can actually just send thoughts at distance.
Send and receive. I think it's. I don't think I can let Azalea and Runt talk. I think I have to say to Azalea, Runt just told me he talked to the trees,
right,
and it explained all this craziness.
Given the length of the oration, which I greatly appreciated as the person who suffered through the backstory in the first place. Given the length of the oration and then the transmittance and whatever dialogue it takes so that everybody knows, I'm going to say that it's going to take at least as long as it takes for Uri and Iru to go through all that. Which means that when everybody comes up for air, we're all at the same moment. So basically the communication is complete and the realizations are complete, and now everybody is in potential action reaction mode. What do you do? Who does what? Who says what?
Runt looks between Azalea and Iniku real quick to see if they've got any ideas on any immediate action that they want to take. And do they?
Yeah, so Ineku's immediate thought is he's going to look mostly at Uri and Iru and say, the crystal must be restored. Each of you from your own side of the door.
Runt looks over at Iniku and whispers in a very bad stage whisper, so that the other two, Iniku, I'm sorry, that Uri and Iru can definitely hear him.
Right.
That what happens, basically, what will happen when the crystal is restored? It seemed to have been undergoing trauma of some kind. I respectfully suggest that needs to be healed first, before whatever is inside the crystal emerges.
I think
otherwise the land itself may be destroyed.
I think I need to pass through the door in order to speak with the crystal.
I know. It was like I had the same reaction James did. It's like, really?
This is what I think must happen.
He has a plus 11 Arcana. He has to be right.
Ineku will kind of pause at that and
as
kind
long
of
as the
reach out
difficulty
with
is
his
10,
mind
sure,
and see if there's a crystal out there for him to talk to. But as far as he can tell right now, there isn't. So he's just planning that the step forward will have to be, let's see if we can get this door open.
Okay. Runt tries to explain to Uri and Iru that there's a possibility that if we screw this up, they won't be in any kind of position to exert control over this thing, and it may be in a spot where it's hostile to both of them. Which, whatever their plans are and whatever our plans are, it's bad for everybody. And Runt at least is concerned about that, and he expresses that concern.
Roll for Ineku first, and since you're in the same encounter, Arcane Mutterings isn't going to do it. It just has to be straightforward diplomacy. Runt, you also have a diplomacy roll, because that was a very clear statement of position rather than an intimidation or,
Yep.
Or
Are we still tracking X's and checks and all that kind of thing?
Not for these. These are just plain old interactions.
Okay.
So, Ineku gathers reasonably compelling argument. It's a 15 total for his diplomacy.
Okay.
My diplomacy is a 19.
That's not bad, actually.
It's not quite a 20, but
I'm just looking at target numbers here. And okay. So a 19. All right. Well, this is sort of amusing considering. All right. Azalea, anything in this?
Good question. I think maybe Azalea is just watching Uri and Iru to see how they are responding and whether they are going to, whether they're even listening, whether they're likely to be.
Make an insight check. That's actually a pretty valuable thing right now.
And I got a 14.
Insight, that's actually not all that great. It's better than nothing. you can tell that they are less of any. The other people's talking didn't hurt. They're both convinced that they're not about to be attacked by you guys out of the gate right now, which
Yet.
kind of, well, they were kind of inclined to think that that's what was going on. So those words have kept them from basically just going into preemptive combat strike. What's really rattled them, as Elia can tell, is that they have arrived here and everything is different from the way they thought it was, that they could actually be here together for one thing, and that they had clearly been going. I mean, that clearly that this place is much different than what they thought it was. Each one had thought you went in and you ran up against this door. And now they realize that they've been going in different directions every single time that they've come. Your insight roll isn't good enough for one important detail about that, unfortunately. But one other thing, however, which is quite important and that it's good enough to spot, is that Uri is unhurt.
Okay.
Right. So and since you had been told by Runt indirectly that he thought that when you hurt one, you hurt the other, evidently that's not literally true.
God damn it.
Or maybe they feel it. Maybe they are distressed by it.
Well, she's certainly, yes, exactly. Something of that kind may be involved. So that's what the insight roll gets you, and it's pretty good thing to have done, actually. See where they're coming from. But they are not in what's it say?
My camera may not be good enough for this.
It needs to be a little closer.
It's just backwards.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Okay, finally they corrected that. Okay, great. Okay,
Did you write that backwards, James?
I did.
Wow.
And here I thought you were immersing when you looked so, so beatific and
contemplative.
distant. I know, yeah.
Which I thought was weird for Runt, but okay.
Well, no, this is the old teaching thing where you just make sure that the clock is behind you.
Yeah.
So that way you feel at least. Hold on a second here.
Understood.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's an interesting question in general. He'll send back. That may happen anyway, mentally. But outwardly, he's obviously had some sort of thought about going through the door. Going through the door is going to activate the crystal or give access to the crystal. And in the course of this conversation, it sounds like his plan for doing that is get Iru and Uri on either side of the door, and we have to get the timing right. Open it at the same time.
Right, and well, Ineku said, or Iru is saying, you're making no sense. What do you mean both sides of the door? That's the whole point. We can't get through. We have to get through. It goes to one side. It's the same side every time I go.
Walk with me. And invite him to walk from one side of the door to the other.
Okay.
I may have knocked some sense into you.
and a perfect opportunity. Iru kind of looks at you and says, shut up. You're a lousy lay. And that was
Iru says that?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. Iru says that.
Yeah, you're not too far wrong. I'm younger than I look.
It's just not the person that you thought had firsthand knowledge of this. So,
many are intimidated by my awesome masculinity. It's a curse.
So, the Iru and Uri look at each other, and they walk toward each other, and look at each other just in a very weird, neutral, like I understand you kind of look that none of you understand as they pass. And then, and I assume Eneku has walked over the other way, which is the way that Iru has not gone before. And
Right.
Uri walks over to where Runt is. And then, and the question is, Azalea, you were where Uri was. Now Eneku and Runt are coming, or Eneku and Iru are coming to
Iru.
you. Are you going to stay with them, or are you going to go with Uri over to Runt?
I will go with Uri.
Okay, so we've got Eneku and Iru on one side. We've got Uri and Azalea and Runt on the other, and the siblings are in the opposites of where they used to go.
Yeah.
So, so are you guys going to go to the door, like through all the ways?
That is the plan, and Eneku will be trying to see if he can reestablish his mental contact. I mean, presumably at some point in this, he'll be more than 5 squares away from
Well, you guys are going to separate.
Azalea.
I mean, by
Yeah,
the time you guys separate, then the contact's lost.
Yeah,
Right.
but I think what Gordon is saying is that at some point we separate and then
right.
we're gonna come
Right.
back around.
Right.
Will be
And,
either side
And
of the
so
door.
as
any
we're
of you
coming,
have the-
and it could be,
Right.
it could not work, right? I mean,
Right.
it could be that I never reestablished contact, even though by my new enlightened perspective, we're now within 5 squares.
Well, you're not within 5
but
squares
he's going to
yet.
try. Yeah.
And
But
do
he's
you
going
have
to be trying.
do you have the geomorph available that I posted?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
So
Yes.
what I'm saying is that when you guys go that way, you're going to see we're using the map as our
Yeah.
distances. You're not going to be within 5 squares until both of you are on the other side of the door. Right.
Yeah, and that is the question as to
right.
at that point, do I reestablish contact?
We
or
will
not?
find
That'd
out.
Make,
Right. We will
Yeah.
find
If we
out.
get there.
Right.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so, getting there is not so bad because there's nothing is coming after you or anything of the sort. And so so it's just traversing, through the difficult corridors to get there,
Right.
which happens. Let me check one particular environmental hazard.
Ineku is a little anxious about this. He's trying to get this to go as quickly as he can. He is a little receptive to Runt's level of concern, but he's also worried that if he gets too antsy about it, that Uri or Iru will flip out, and he doesn't want that to happen either.
Right. So yes, I kind of like the idea that Eneku has expressive body language. And so therefore, because the features, are the way I see it is that the angle of your face can change your expression based on your eye by looking at your eyes. But aside from that, there's not a lot of facial,
Right.
mobility, and second, you don't make vocal noise. So so therefore it's odd that you when you're communicative. So what I see you doing is walking with very deliberate, slightly artificial dignity, kind of the I'm so impassive, I'm so impassive, I'm so impassive kind of walk is sort of kind of my imagery.
That sounds good. Yeah, and starting to like maybe even lead the way, and then slowing back down a little bit, and really.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anybody paying attention will probably see some anxiety there.
Sure.
While we're walking, Runt is going to apologize to Uri for wounding Iru, and explain that the guy wasn't handing over the shard, and he couldn't figure out any other way to make him do it. It wasn't out of bloodlust or malice. It was essentially, it was the only way I could see to get what you wanted. I apologize for any distress it may have caused you.
Well, she says, I didn't know where your soul lies. No, how would she put that? Where your heart. No, I did not know how your heart speaks, but I saw your heart speak in the rage that you turned against my brother. That is the first passion I have seen from you.
Tell me
And
if
remember,
you can.
I'm talking in reference to your daily power.
Yeah. Run gets that. Who built the citadel on the far end of your island, and why? There's some sort of like monk's tower or something like that.
No, there is. Right.
Yeah.
And she says the monks came and they had they taught us some things. We were young. They taught us. We tried to learn. And one day it was closed and silent. We fell. I'm beginning to she says, I'm beginning to understand. We felt as though we had not truly learned. Why it is closed and silent, I don't know. Our people, she uses their name for the first time.
Please let it have lots of apostrophes and like weird 70s psychedelia shit.
The Zomzukulu
Exactly. Yes, please.
would not go in.
That's really the name of the people. All right. Rent does not smirk at that. He's a bitter actor than I am.
Hey, you asked, and I was very pleased that my notes from a month and a half ago were completely on board with precisely that request. So, so anyway, so you guys are having kind of a serious conversation, but she says we have no choice. We can, she says we must put our hopes in you. I have already committed to that.
Very good.
Yeah. And if we can, then we will turn all we have to answering that question, because one thing I'm realizing, my brother and I need wisdom.
I do not know what you need, and would not speak of that. My only concern is that the current situation puts the Zonzakalu, as well as us and the land itself, in peril. This may be a moment where stepping back is the wiser course. And I understand there may be a conflict of interest here, but I want to be open about how I view the matter. In other words, Runt is essentially hoping that he will not have to kill anybody if he can help it. I'm not sure. That's not an intimidation check. It's just me communicating my general.
And she says, we must step into the unknown. That's all. So when you get to the door, singular, when you get to the respective sides of the door, both Iru and Uri will be surprised. Nobody had said this yet. Surprised that it is evidently the other side. They had both thought that this was just an alternative route to the same side that they had already visited, each of them. So each one is, we're on the other side. We're through. You did it, says Iru. And Uri says, Runt, your crystal friend isn't here.
Crystal friend.
Can we
Christopher.
get back in?
If you come up close to the door, yes.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, within a few squares. And yeah, Ineku picks up Runt quickly. Yeah.
Runt is motions to Uri and says, "I've never seen this guardian. I will take your word that it exists, but please keep back away from the door. I will move a little bit closer to see if I can speak to Iniku through the power of the mind."
Okay, by the way, everybody, the previous encounter concluded when you guys walked in peace from that particular landing spot.
Ah.
So whatever mechanics that are involved in the conclusion of an encounter, go ahead and use them. Including taking an action for a healing surge, which is not a bad thing to do if you had one.
Yep.
And so, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Azalea had taken quite a number of blows in
Yes.
that battle, and as well as Runt. You guys were both pretty beat
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
with any luck, that healing surge will do a little bit of the job.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, at the moment, you guys are kind of an interesting and fierce set of a fierce and spectacle of combat. You know, combat battered. You know, exotic, barbaric scariness. So,
we are ready,
mhm.
beaten but prepared.
Yeah, exactly. So, so Ineku at the moment is doing the Spock thing. Okay, it's a machine. I got it, right?
Yep.
And the others, and let's see, Iru will shout. It's shouting at the door and says, Uri, are you there? Where are you? And she says, and you guys can faintly hear him. And
So we do actually manage to hear through a little bit.
Yes,
Cool.
it is muffled, and Uri responds quickly and says, "Yes, it's here. I think I'm on your side." And he shouts back, "Beware the Guardian! Beware!" And
and Ineku will say, "Together now, both of you, open the door. If the Guardian appears, we shall do what is needed."
As a minor action, Runt draws his weapon.
Roll initiative. Because I am all about this. And I'm actually pretty surprised and impressed that you guys got this far.
4.
Initiative, 4, 6, 19.
Ooh.
Wait, you went from a 6 to a 19?
No, I had 6. I got 13.
Plus 6. Yeah. So
Okay.
cool. We have then this set up. Onward. I believe that the first thing that will happen was that, much to the disappointment of everybody involved, the crystal cobra unlatches itself from the door the way that it did before, and it does so on both sides.
Yeah, I was afraid of that.
Saw that coming.
Mm-hmm. And so detaching is its move. Is this going to be at random, or does it know?
I'm fairly close to the door on my side, so.
Right. Now, these things do have, like, intelligence and stuff like that, so I'm going to have to make a roll to see whether it's bright enough to grasp a particular detail? In other words, can it tell who is going to be coming through the door and who is not, especially since you guys haven't done anything yet? And it rolls quite high. It does know. It knows who is potentially going to open the door. So it's going to strike, and now I got to do 50-50. It's going to strike at Iru. And so people on the other side of the door will simply see the cobra flare its hood and rear up, but you're not going to actually see what they see on the other side, which is the cobra darts its head toward Iru, and it does not actually lash out and bite him. It just turns and does kind of a short strike in the air in his direction. 16 versus will. Ouch. 16 on 16. It hits him. And so
no.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, what that is well, from its stopping point, from where it struck and reared back, there is for lack of a better word, a photon torpedo. Basically, darts out and strikes him. And it hits without any kind of like impact. There's no force involved, but instead, there's like a sudden glow flash, as if it came from inside his head. So you actually see like his skull light up from the inside, just for a second. And it obviously affects him drastically. He all of his muscles go slack for a second, and he catches himself before he falls and is shaking his head from side to side. Good. Let us move on to Azalea. What do you do?
Okay. Just to check I'm understanding the geography, we're the side of the door which is slightly narrower and doesn't have the flared out.
Right. The one you weren't at.
Shape?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, this is probably going to go horrendously wrong. I would like to try a stunt. I think Azalea is going to take her spearhead and kind of sweep in a circle round in the corridor, trying to set up a vibration that maybe will affect the crystalline form of the serpent and cause interference with it, and maybe shatter it, but who knows?
Okay.
Does that seem like a thing damage?
Well, what
wrong?
I'm not very bright. Explain the game mechanic that you are doing here.
I'm suggesting we could use the stunt rules which are in the DM's guide.
Okay.
For one-off things.
Okay.
If you'd like.
That would be quite rules savvy of you. Oh.
Hey, Ross, you figured out which side of the door we're on, right? We're on the side that's got kind of the hexagon thing on either side of it. The little okay.
Right.
I thought we were the other side, and the hexagon thing was the side that we were on.
I can go by the siblings. The side that. Okay, so which sibling are we talking about? You are with Azalea.
Uri, the female.
Right, you're with Uri. So Uri is gone where Iru always went. So you're in the bigger room.
Right.
One of the sides is bigger than the other, is like a big room.
Yeah.
That's the one that Uri is in.
Okay.
And the
Okay.
Okay, so Ross, tell me about stunting again.
I'm just trying to find the DM's guide now.
Improvising. 28.
Yes. 42.
Ah.
Page 42. Actions the rules don't cover.
Gotcha.
So basically, I think you decide how easy you think it might be. If it is a thing that might happen, I suppose you can say it can't.
So, and you had described it as actually trying to affect the frequency or vibration in the area so that it's a special attack against the Cobra?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
And this was not at all a excuse to try and use the.
No, I don't mind that. Do you just because this is kind of your interesting concept,
Okay.
how is this different from, I mean, is it going to be using some feature of yours that just isn't a weapons attack?
I wasn't intending it to use any particular thing that she does, although she's obviously a monk with
right. So if you want,
dexterity and agility.
Do you want to but is this like a physical thing where you think that dexterity is kind of the way? Because we could do that. We could roll and add your dexterity modifier.
Yes, that seems reasonable.
Okay. And then as far as the damage is concerned,
as I understand it, the way the rules work, you have to decide whether it's something that could happen
easy,
regularly.
Easy, moderate, or hard. Yeah.
But it's split into two things, which is what things that are one-offs can potentially do more damage, and things that could be done again and again and again would do less damage. So you've got the normal or limited.
Right. And so, yeah, there we go. All right. Well, that's a heinous amount of damage, which is pretty awesome. Which is, I can see why you're doing that. Wow, I've never used these rules before. This is kind of awesome. Okay.
I wasn't expecting to get a limited one because I didn't think it. I thought it was probably well. You wouldn't want to see me spamming it and doing it again if it works.
Exactly. I would like you to make an Arcana check.
Okay. That could go badly altogether.
And in this case, it's a minor action. I can see this being a minor action rather than a major.
Well, my Arcana check came up with a 7, so it's already going.
Well, so you're really going to have to rely just on the dexterity. So go ahead and make a dexterity check, or rather, roll 20, add your dexterity modifier, and let me know what you hit. Since this is a rather dangerous foe who outlevels you considerably, it's going to be pretty hard.
Okay, I got a 16.
Yeah.
So probably not enough.
Well, let's see. What I'm going to say is that all sorts of fractures appear in the crystals, and fractures appear as those cracks appear kind of simultaneously across all sorts of crystals in the area, that the Cobra freezes for a moment and then moves again without any fractures showing up on it. But that was a very bold attempt. A better roll would have served you well. Yes. Cool. That was that action, and then you still have a move action.
Okay. I suppose I will then. How close is the Cobra to Runt and me? And could I, for example, move to one side to give him a flanking attack later?
I see.
Or is it not adjacent?
Well, yes, it actually had moved forward so that it could make that. Well, let's see. Yeah, it moved forward. Now, the motion of the Cobra, this is going to make things easier. The motion of the Cobra will be the same on both sides of the door. So whatever I describe it does, it moves on both sides exactly the same way. So it will move forward. It already has moved forward a bit. It shifted basically to strike at Iru on the other side, and did that kind of rearing motion that I had described. So if you wanted to, you guys are in a big enough space that you could get to one side of it. The question is whether you are going to get within. The question is whether you're going to be adjacent to it or not. There's room on either side of it to keep a square in between you and it if you want to. But not much more, well, not too much more room than that.
I recall this thing's fast. I may as well just go and stand next to it.
All right, so
And
you're
then
going to dodge
I
in
can
right
run away
next to it.
later.
Yeah, right into its range.
Yeah.
I don't believe that gives it an
Yes.
opportunity attack, or does it? It's if you move away that you get.
It's if you move from a square which it has control over. So depending what angle I have to come in at.
Right. Okay.
I would be all right.
Okay. So now the next person to go is going to be Ineku.
All right. So Aneku is here with just Iru, and what he wants to do is try and make sure that Iru can get to the door and open it, and hopefully still somewhat in coordination with Iru being able to do the same thing on the other, or Uri being able to do the same thing on the other side.
Wait, we didn't take their fragments from them? They still got the stupid fragments?
They do not have.
Yeah, I think at this point they do.
Right. As a matter of fact, I don't think you took the fragments from them. You just activated them.
But we want them to try, or at least Aneku wants them to try, want to be trying opening this door together and paying no attention to the peril of this crystalline being. So
Ineku has, from the beginning, Ineku has been remarkably idealistic about the potential of this crystal, is all I've got to say.
Yeah, he's been stuck on this.
Yeah.
He's been very stuck
Poor
on
crystal
this.
baby trying to be born. Right. So
something like that.
So
or
good enough.
Magnificent crystal mystery must be understood. So he is going to, I think this makes sense the way that I'm envisioning everything's positioned. He's going to use his springing Drake assault power to position himself with the movement portion in a square that is adjacent to the crystalline critter, and between him and Iru.
I see. So you're basically going to
crystalline cobra and Iru.
You're running interference. You're making yourself a target.
Yeah. He's going to position himself there, and then he will actually go ahead and attack the creature in the hope that if he hits, he actually gets to slide it a little ways away.
Ah, okay. So go ahead.
So he kind of springs, and his crystalline body reassembles itself, positioned between the creature and Iru, and lashes out with an attack against reflex, which I got to imagine this thing is going to be awfully good. But my springing Drake assault is it's 19. 19 is pretty good.
You got a 19 against its reflex?
I got a 19 on my dexterity versus its reflex.
All righty then. Tell me some damage. Holy cow.
All right. That will do 6. Whoa, that's good. 16 points plus my dexterity modifier, which is 3. So that's 19 points of damage. That also triggers my Iron Soul Flurry of Blows, which inflicts another 4 points of damage. And
did we just see Ineku be like some kind of serious monkish, like Shardmine badass thing?
That's exactly what happened with an encounter power and a flurry of blows.
I want to point out that we did not see that. It's on the other side of the door. I refuse to believe that it happened. He's the guy who talked.
No respect. No respect.
This I'm like another roll. Like I can just tell right now I'm going to miss on everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we
that
have
and it slides 2 squares away.
which way? And you're gonna like zip it away from the door slash
Iru.
Iru thing.
Yeah.
Now, actually, that's a fairly interesting point. Um,
It also cannot shift itself until the start of my next turn.
oh, that's
Ooh.
nasty. You just obviated its slithering shift power, which is really, really savage. Wow.
Well, I'm particularly glad
Wow.
since I didn't know it had a slithering shift power.
Okay, I'm gonna say something. You just did the Karnak strike from the Inhumans, which was you actually did your springing Drake assault to a specific spot, and so you actually did something that's akin to what, yeah, exactly, akin to what Azalea was doing and trying to work its crystalline nature against itself, and you actually, I'm gonna say, since it's the flurry of blows, it is multiple strikes and they're all like angled relative to one another to set up all kinds of
Mhm.
damage, internal damage, like shivering throughout its entire frame. So that's what you did. Um, and yeah, it's basically hurled, literally hurled in a with crystalline cracking noises, considerably away um, from you. Um, and so cool. I assume and that okay. I think that'll do it. That'll do it.
And so that's
Minor
my
action?
move and my attack. And with my minor action, I will just go ahead and mentally encourage Iru and Iru, get to the door, get to the door,
Got it.
open the door,
Right.
open the door.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Actually, that's a really good idea. Because you are with Iru, and unfortunately, at this moment, he is both dazed and slowed.
Well, slowed is inconvenient. How disruptive is dazed in this condition?
Dazed has some impacts on your options, and I wouldn't mind if somebody would double check. It's over here in my player's handbook. Um, so I want to
He
see what that will
grants
do to his movement. It's not his turn yet, but I can tell you, slowed simply cuts down on his movement, obviously, and
right.
then more importantly is the dazed situation.
Okay,
How
so yeah,
well?
his day situation, he grants
Days,
combat
yes.
advantage, and he can only take one of
Right.
standard
Right.
minor.
Okay, so I know exactly his situation. You realize as soon as you speak to him mentally that his mind is fogged, very,
He's not
very
going to be
fogged.
able to respond to my request as
Well,
quickly as I had hoped.
right. But that does bring us to uh, Uri is next to go, not him. So on the other side of the door, Uri is going to let's see, the strike had occurred. Nobody on that side of the door has done anything relative to the Cobra yet. And Azalea has tried something. What is Uri going to do? I have to think about just how reflective she's being at this point, and there may have to be a minor action concerning kind of intelligence stuff. Um, mm. Yeah, unfortunately, she did not make the intelligence check, and so she is she's going to um yeah, she does not make the check she needs to do, quote, the right thing. So So she's going to actually be throwing a punch at the thing. Remember those weird punches that she did?
Yes.
And I never did describe that she is wearing uh kind of cool gloves, basically, with a metallic, you know, I'm thinking of some sort of like clunky plate looking
Mhm.
apparatus on the backs of the gloves. So man, +5 versus fortitude. All right, let's see how this goes. That's pretty nasty. You guys are rolling really well against this poor snake.
Oh no, poor snake.
Right now, this is a
It's so sad.
this is a ranged attack on her part. So d6 +5. Oh wow.
The poor thing with a
Actually, you know what?
slithering shift attack.
Yeah, well, not anymore. This is actually pretty interesting. You've prevented it from shifting. Her power, after I roll the damage, which is shitty damage, she only does a little bit of damage considering the amount that she can do. But the interesting thing is that she immobilizes it. The punch hits, and the cobra freezes, like literally freezes in place. She then takes her move, because she has her full move and it's immobilized now, so she can go around, keeping out of its path, to get to the door. So she gets to the door. She still has her minor action, and she uses it to shout, to hold the handle of the door, put her shoulder against it, and shout to her brother, you know, Iru, can you hear me? Are you ready? And you can hear that from the other side. So
Right.
the people, right. So Eneku can hear that from the other side. So apparently Uri is all set up. So even though she failed her intelligence check about the best tactic, the tactic that she did do was surprisingly effective. So
I am pleased.
I gotta say, the Goblin of Maglibuyet of Monster, I want to play one.
You want to be a Goblin of Maglubiet?
The build is fantastic, which is what she is. I'm using that build for her, and it is just a cool ass thing. So, the next one to go is going to be Uri, who is going to Iru, sorry. And so slowed, Ross, that's what, half move?
Oh, good question. I think,
Or maybe it's just one hex? Yeah, it's a very limited move. But the good news in Echo...
your speed is 2.
Right, so he will get 2 squares toward the door, and he's using everything he's got to sort of stay on track. He's definitely stumbly and confused, and like loses the door, and like tries to find out where it is again, and and doesn't get very far. But 2 squares is 2 squares, and so he's another such move or so from the door, and and the good news is that the Cobra doesn't seem to be moving. All right, now finally we come to Runt. Bottom of the
yeah. Okay, so I want to make sure that I'm keeping track of the conditions that are affecting this thing. It is not the one on our side, at least so far as we know, is not bloodied. Correct. At least it doesn't seem to be really banged up yet. It is, however, temporarily immobilized in some way or form. Right. It's not as bad as the one on Iniku's side, but it's.
Let me put it this way: the Cobra that you're looking at has the Cobra that you're looking at has been immobilized for a period. And I'm trying to say, you know what? I'm going to say, if you want to find out exactly what's going on with this cobra relative to the different things that have happened on either side of the door, you're going to have to make an Arcana check.
Okay, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
Let me ask you a rules question though, and maybe this is obvious. I've got an attack, or not an attack, but an action that is a burst 3, and I can psionically augment it to get 1 or 2 creatures in the burst. Does that penetrate through a door, or does the door give cover on stuff like that?
A burst doesn't care about cover.
Okay.
And so in terms of visibility, in the burst is in the burst. Number one, you would have to know the creature is there. But when you don't know, I mean, burst 3 isn't that big. And so you would have to know that the cobra was in that area. Suffice to say that the other one, remember, had shifted forward. The other cobra would have to be really butted up against the door, like actually integrated with the door, like it was before, or just in front of it to be there.
Okay.
And I think burst and blast powers often say enemy you can see.
Right. Yeah, but this one doesn't, I think.
My recollection is that it does not. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Because I think I copied this straight out of the book.
Right. If it doesn't, then just the burst hits whatever's in it. Right. Or that you designate as being in it.
Yeah. Okay. So, so I can't see through the wall anyway, so I guess it doesn't matter. I was thinking there's a way that I could get in between this thing and Uri to sort of act as a bodyguard, maybe with Azalea as a flanking thing, and then unleash this super telepathic thing that would tag both of the monsters.
All I can say is do it, and if it's in the range, then it'll be affected on the other side.
Okay, so let's do that then. On my move action, I'm going to try to move in a spot where I can get between the serpent and Uri. On my attack action, I'm going to hit this thing with a, devastating strike. And then on my minor action, I'm going to burst my Battle Mind's Demand against and augment that against the 2 targets in the burst, the 2 snakes, if I can get them.
Now, here's what's going to happen in terms of movement. Uri is actually at the door. You are going to be one square in from her into the room, sort of on a straight line.
Gotcha.
Because that's on, and then the cobra is one more step into the room, right, from you.
Right.
Then, given what Ross had told me before, that Azalea is actually adjacent to the cobra and one square away from you, not adjacent to you. So therefore, you guys have flanked it.
Okay.
Because that's what she was doing, was trying to set up for the flank. And if you move into the right position, that's where you would go.
Yeah. All right. So that's what I'm going to try to do. Mm-hmm. So I'm making my move, and maybe I'm subjected to an opportunity attack. I don't know how that works out in terms of where we're positioned. But absent that, I will use my devastating strike. Oh, and I get an extra damage.
Well, if you hit.
If I hit. No, I do not. There is no way in the world that hits. So that doesn't count for anything. But I was worried about you, Uri. I'm sorry. And then I'm going to use my minor action as a psionically augmented Battle Mind's Demand against 1 or 2 creatures in burst, not blast, but burst 3, which I think is like a radius effect.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Okay. Now, here is, which I believe means that it's -2 against everybody except you. That's the marking.
That's the marking part, yes. And there's also an immediate reaction part that comes in as well.
Exactly. If it hits someone else, then you're going to zap it.
Yeah.
So the other important thing that I want to say is that you have, I'm going to say, devastating strikes do not disappear into thin air.
Right.
I'm going to suggest that you have done massive structural damage to, to the area.
A wall.
Yeah, the wall or the
Yeah.
floor. Well, it'll have to be the floor because you're
Yeah.
out in the middle right now. And so, therefore, you are going to, and if, I close it right. And so there's an explosion. And so in your in your square, which is basically at the point of impact, right? So technically, there you are, is going to basically, there's going to be an emission, a radiant emission from the fractures, and you're going to take 5 damage. This is the Doomlight crystal.
All right.
And so I'm following my own notes for once. Still can't remember if the minions in the monk minion distorted monks did psychic feedback or not the way they were supposed to. Oh well. So let's take it. The next one up top of the order then, I believe, is going to be this cobra thing. And although it is immobilized, it is not unshifty. It is not without its strengths. Now it has been moved away from Eneku. So
Correct.
So it's
on
not
that side,
gonna,
the one
since it
has moved
cannot
away
move,
from Echo.
and you will see that it is unable to move. And so let's see.
Interesting.
Yes.
So from an Echo's perspective, there's no reason for that on his side.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so so what it's going to do, since it's already hit with that, then it's going to try to use it on you. It can't do anything to Iru that it hasn't already done. So it's going to use the same power on you. It's called Poison the Mind. However, to do it, it's going to have to see about the recharge. Oh. You have neutralized the Cobra at this time. So it's not going after you, and you were the one that it would have been its choice. Whereas, since it can't do that, then it's going to take its action on the other side. You guys are starting to get the idea, I think. And here, with an attack on Runt, who has just been the one to most recently attack it, is going to be a plus 11. So D8 plus 3.
Plus 13, because I had a devastating strike, which leaves me more vulnerable.
Yes. Oh, is that so? Alrighty then.
Yes.
So it handily, just almost casually, strikes at you, and it is not a bite, right? I mean, it moves like a cobra, but the effect is psychic. And you're going to take 7 points of damage, and we will do something that happens on your next round to you.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
And so, yes, but what you feel is that whatever it hits you with, that psychic blow, the psychic bite, has put something in your mind. You can feel it in your mind. Something's working in your mind and threading its way throughout your body along your nervous system.
Okay.
So that's its thing, which will bring us to Azalea.
Okay. Azalea is next to this thing, so let's not mess around. I'm attacking it, plunging my spear into its crystalline body.
And enough is enough.
Right.
Go for it.
In an energizing strike. An energizing strike that I am sonically augmenting for 2.
Wow. Power points.
Yes. Right. So that Horizon Strike. This is Charisma versus AC. Oh, okay. That would be 26 against AC.
26.
Yes.
You guys are really savage. You guys are rolling over 20 all the time against this thing, except for run. And so,
Not me.
so go ahead and roll your damage. That's fantastic. Oh, what I'm going to
Yes.
say
Well.
is that this is what's really weird. I'm going to say is that with the exception of Eneku's monkish strike, that really, just like its strikes like move in a physical fashion, but they actually hit the mind instead. It's exactly the same thing. You stab with a spear, but we are not talking about stabbing into it. You're just bringing the spear against it, or as if you were striking, and then the psionic energies, blast out or radiate out from the spear into it. See what I mean? So this is very much psychic strikes using weapons as your delivery system.
Okay.
Which is
in that
like
case,
seriously cool, stuff. So, how much damage do you do?
I did 21 points of damage.
Ooh.
Psionically to it. And as a result of psionically augmenting, I am spending a healing surge.
Right, and that's part of the augmentation.
Sucking psionic energy back out.
That's exactly what you did. That's fantastic. Yeah. I mean, this is like serious psychic battle here. And when you, and I'm actually really impressed, it is at this point seriously diminished. Seriously, you can tell its integrity is lost. A great deal of what holds it together is lost.
Is it bloodied?
It is bloodied. What that means is that there's a lot less crystals of it. It's still the same size in terms of psychic energy, but the number of physical pieces that are now representing it are much less. So it's much more evident as a psychic being rather than a crystal being. The crystallineness of it is badly diminished. And so the next one to go, I am actually pretty shocked. Eneku, you're next.
Okay, so Eneku at this point is actually pretty happy with the situation. This thing is diminished. He's between it and Iru. He's going to go ahead and basically hold his position and use his mind lock power to reach out and try yet again to lock this thing in place and keep it from interfering in what Iru is about to attempt to do. This is an attack of my intelligence against its will.
I should also point out, too, that it, till the end of the Acolyte's next turn. Yeah, this is so savage. The immobilization of that Uri did to it, there's no save. It just lasts until the end of Uri's next turn. And furthermore, the your power that prevents it from shifting, Gordon, did that have a save?
No, it's just a
how long does it last?
Shifting until my next turn.
In the end, okay.
So that has now expired.
So, right, that it just expired just now.
Yeah,
so and did you roll the mind lock?
And I just rolled the mind lock, which is my intelligence. Yeah, I rolled a 19, so that's a 24.
Holy crap. All right. Well, the mind lock does what?
So it will inflict D8, which is 4 plus 3, 7 points of psychic damage. And I am going to augment that for 1 point so that it is prevented from shifting again until my next turn.
Gotcha. Okay. Wow. So So yeah, I'm gonna say that this is kind of like one of those Marvel Comics things where there is no need for the psionic character to do this with their mental power, but they do it anyway.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah. So so cool. That's just outrageous. Next up is going to
I
be
thought for sure I was going to look very embarrassing on that one but dice are dice.
Uri makes it to the door. That's all he's got. He can't try to open it. He can't try to talk. He's just like a drunken man. He is just trying to get there. But however, that's the end of his turn, and he at least gets to save. So 11 or higher, he clears those conditions, and he does with a 20, I might add, natural 20. So Iru has made it to the door finally unscathed, and is actually, you know,
Ready.
throws off the conditions at that point, which is, again, God, I had no idea you guys were actually going to be able to. I mean, of all the different outcomes that you guys have worked up here, I'm surprised.
Well, the two important rolls on my end, I dropped a 14 and a 19. So
right.
Right.
So the next one up is going to be is going to be Uri, and she says, and she's a little stuck actually. She's shouting, let's see, does she even remember your name? Because she hasn't interacted with Aniku at all. So and she's going to say, Crystal Guy, where's my brother? What's going on over there?
Yeah.
I'm here.
He's at the
I'm
door.
here.
He's at the door. Just wait. I'll signal when he makes his move.
Okay. So
get ready to open the door.
And she does, and she's going to take a minor action to look over her shoulder and get an idea of what's going on over there, and to see whether, like, the Cobra, for example, is about to strike her from behind. So she looks, orients, and is like, oh, okay, they seem to have got it. She was a little worried about that big explosion she just heard behind her, for example. Runt.
Okay, as the author of the big explosion, I am going to use my Blood Strike encounter power, which hopefully I will manage to hit on. Marking that off. And it does potentially up to 3d12 plus 3 damage.
Right.
But I've got a hit on it, and that's tricky. Do I still have a flank from anybody?
Yes. Azalea is still right there.
Okay. Okay, great. Yes! I get a 25 versus armor class.
You got it. Let's see all those. When's the last time you got to roll 3d12 for damage, right?
Seldom. 22 points of damage. And I think I still got an action surge. Why do I have a +3 to melee? Oh! Why do I have a +3 to melee damage rolls written on a sheet? I don't know what that's for. I don't know why I'm getting a +3 to anything.
I'm not sure either, unless it was a boon, and boons fade. So
yeah, okay, that might be it. I'm also going to spend an action surge to conduct a devastating strike against this thing. And you said, Ron, you had said something about effects that hit me on my turn, and I had completely forgotten about it before I acted.
Yes, take 5 points from the ongoing damage.
Oh, okay. I can handle that. I am now bloodied, in case anyone cares, but only just.
We care.
Okay. Okay. Devastating strike. Whoa! Natural 20 for 12 points of damage. Natural 20, natural 12, and then at 5. So that's a total of. Oh wait, no, it does maximum damage on a crit, right?
That's right.
So it does. So that does a total of 23 points of damage, plus having just hit a critical on a barbarian attack.
That's right.
I make a melee basic attack as a free action.
Right.
So when I do hit. Oops, hold on.
So the key is get Runt frustrated by a miss, and then it's gone.
I think I mentioned this before. I was in a Pendragon campaign that lasted for about 2 years, and it was the best, unquestionably the absolute best role-playing experience I've ever had. And what would happen to my guy is he would fail at everything. He would go insane. Like the rules have all these things about like despondency and despair and like absolute misery. And like my guy he was like the Charlie Brown of Arthurian England until like finally like he just like blows up and just like novas and like, you know, kills like the guy who's attacking the Grail Castle and like does all these like crazy things, like gets the girl. It's pretty great. And then he got killed by Mordred in a unhappy misunderstanding. Anyway, I managed
Arthurian,
to hit.
Yes. No one ever dies for like a real reason in that story. So
no, I mean, if you're going to get killed by somebody, I mean, Mordred is like the Doctor Doom of that universe, so it's okay. It's a good way to go.
So
what
happens now?
I hit on my basic melee attack on my rampage. I think I get a total of 22 versus armor class.
You do.
But I only inflict 6 points of damage.
Well, let me inform you of something. By the mechanics, your first strike actually took it past its hit points of 75 to 79. Your first strike. Your final total, the final number of hit points that it has taken in total is 108. So what you just did is basically absolutely shatter it. Now, Devastating Strike is a barbarian attack, correct?
Yes. That's why I was able to rampage.
Right, and and also the at least another one of those, the encounter. No, and at least another one of those is psychic, correct?
I don't think so. I think it. I mean, not this time around. There was a psychic pin on it, basically, but it was just Blood Strike. I think was the main attack.
No problem. So basically, what happens is that you completely devastated. And since you've been both fighting, since everybody's been fighting the same Cobra the whole time, so I've treated it as a single monster. It's gone. You have completely shattered it, and given the extraordinary overkill going on there as well, I'm going to say that you have the integrity of the crystalline chamber is compromised. At that, by the way, roll a saving roll.
Oh. I get a 2. I fail.
Okay.
Against any defense. So.
That's right. There isn't any defense. Right. It's just a 50.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So,
that's right.
Well, 55-45. So the main thing at this point is that how am I going to put this? The crystalline nature of the chamber, the room, and the floors, everything's starting to slide out of sync in different directions at different angles. So the whole place looks like it's kind of sliding out of its integrity. The crystals are all starting to shift. All the surfaces are starting to shift relative to one another. In a kind of
Eniku, I think I broke the universe.
Sorry.
Question is, which universe did you break?
So what I want to emphasize, however, is that Yes. Now the door opens. And it doesn't open by itself. It opens because I believe the one on Uri, if I remember correctly, opens it toward herself, and Iru opens it away from himself, and they see each other.
As a minor action, Runt readies his battle axe.
Ineku notices the two of them looking at each other through the door, and the thought that's probably important passes through his brain. But then he looks through the door himself. He's looking for Crystal.
I don't looking. Can you say that again?
Yeah, he's looking. So he's like, okay, they're on the either side of the door, and they're looking at each other. But still, I'm looking for. Okay, this door is going to lead me to the crystal, right? So where is that? Can I see anything, or do I just need to go through the door myself? That's what he's thinking.
I see. You are perhaps disappointed to recognize that it's precisely the chamber that you had already been in, and is just the other side.
Yep, that is disappointing, but they're still going through it and seeing what happens then. So that will be his plan.
Right. I
is
see.
to leave a little room for Iru and Uri to figure out what they're going to do, but then he's going to step through the door himself.
Runt.
Yes, actions, everybody.
Runt is going to move over to Azalea, and he's going to whisper as quietly as he can. Your spear can still separate them if we have to, right?
Potentially.
Okay.
So,
why would we want to do that?
They both moving in very synchronous fashion, which is not to say the same movement, but at exactly the same speed. Each one produces the shard that they had, and they each present the other with the shard, and the shards are coming together right there upon being produced, each shard starts to give off an immense amount of radiant energy, and as they come closer, it's even more so. There's a miniature sun right there. Ineku, if you want to try and get through past that, there may be a roll involved.
Well, actually, as that starts to happen, his plan will change, and he'll just reach out with his mind to that crystal that's fusing, and say, "You are restored. Calm down. All will be right now."
Azalea and Runt.
Yes.
What shall you do?
The
two shards are a millimeter away from fusing.
Have I spent enough time with Azalea to know whether or not she's better at Arcana than my +1?
You guys have spent plenty of time together, and you guys, if I recall, have had campfire discussions of metaphysics. So I think all of you have a pretty good idea.
It's not any more than your +1. So.
All right, I'm making an Arcana check. We'll see what the hell happens. I want to figure out what's the deal with this crystal fusing together. Oh man, I get an adjusted roll of 2. I'm. It's a weapon.
Yeah,
it's a weapon this whole time.
Yeah, you have this feast or famine thing going on with your rolls that are extremely consequential.
Yeah.
All I can say is that you try to open your minds to it in sort of an arcane fashion, and the feedback is such that you're seeing pretty lights.
Okay.
Azalea?
Okay.
Azalea is looking the other way because if the crystal dungeon that we are in, or what was it, vertices thing, is starting to come apart, we may not have much choice about where we go anyway, and I want to see if there is a way back down away from the door. If should we need to
make a actually
dungeoneering?
Absolutely, that's precisely correct.
Oh, unfortunately, that's an 11.
11's not bad. This is an easy point. 11 will do it.
Okay.
The only way out is that fusing crystal right there. The whole idea of like going back the way you came, that's done.
Not entirely a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to get out. I think we need to go out
Make
through the crystal.
Gordon, you are going to have to make a roll for that interactive effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
So Eneku would, of course, love for it to be an Arcana, but I could also see it as just an insight.
this actually
It's a new encounter, Gordon.
Well,
it can be both.
It's about perception. You were actually trying to influence it. This is diplomacy.
Okay, and so at which point it would be, yeah, if there is something there to try and influence with
However, this
diplomacy,
is a new encounter, and
Exactly.
Arcane Mutterings is
is active, and it will explain how how
It also-
Eneku transitions to saying, your sources will be merged together as it was intended. No longer will you be separated from the whole. You will be nurtured, restored, and happy. Oh, God.
You rolled a
It's
1.
embarrassing.
You rolled a 1.
I dropped a 20. No, I dropped a 20. So it's a 31.
Are you going
Can
to
one be
make me
embarrassed at
have?
good dice luck?
Are you going to make
I
me
guess one can be.
live through a kumbaya ending to this entire level's adventure?
Ron, can I replace my battle axe with just like Iniku's like body on a pole, and then it like swing around and like talks to people with this thing?
Oh. Yeah, well, I am going to say that this is where things get really groovy. Their clothes and armor and weapons, and indeed the somewhat brutishness of their appearances, are going to slough away, be burned and blasted backwards off of both of them, as each one grows to about 8 feet tall. And although they are still kind of these, forest goblin-esque kind of looking beings, they are now far more graceful and burly at the same time. They were both stocky before. Now they have gained this kind of statuesque grace as well as their hands come together with the crystal. The crystal itself, as I said, described as a miniature sun, is going to reverse its relationship to you. Before, you were in a space, odd as it may be, the fragmenting and slip sliding space of this crystalline structure in this doorway. And the crystal was a small thing inside that, right? A piece of it. No, it's the other way around. Now it's the new thing that you are inside of, and it is expanding outward. And the instead, so your entire perspective of space is reversed. And the effect on all of you too is that you are now sectioned and partitioned slices of yourselves, all expanding outward at different angles with the angles of this expanding crystal. So all of you are like really fucked up looking. And so while this is happening, the Yeah, while this is happening, I think that each one of you is going to have to um, roll with your, let's see, fortitude, reflex, and will. This is will. Roll and add your will, and let's see how you do relative to a 20.
So,
How do you mean
Rolling
roll and
will.
add
Mm-hmm.
so
As in the bonus we have
we have a
a 10,
we
or
have a will
or do you mean wisdom?
defense.
No, that's not what I meant. Sorry, not your will. This is going to be your wisdom.
Okay.
Your wisdom
Okay.
bonuses. That's what I meant.
Do we get any
of
that? Do we get any of that like +1 for half your level or whatever it is
Yes, you
in
do.
there?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Ooh, okay. Well, I suppose it was time. 5 from an acre.
I
Ross?
got a 5 as well. Got a 5.
James?
18.
18, which is not a 20. So, all right. So the net effect is everything goes black. Your minds are shattered by the experience, and you have no idea. I would have described the most amazing experiences, over the next, section, but sadly, your minds can't comprehend it, so you're just not going to remember it.
We can go back into the forest, guys. There's some really, really good routes there.
Right.
The
you
tree
should
sap
mention
is
that.
awesome, I hear.
Funny you should mention that. Because an unspecified amount of time later, the enormous green pods which have grown in the forest split open, and each of you is revealed having regrown there.
Oh no, we're plant people.
You don't feel like plants, but you have regrown in the forest.
Is an Iku's pod like some weird crystal pod?
Nope.
Okay, just
nope.
Okay.
Yes, and of course
there's just the barest amount of residual goo as you kind of get out of it.
That is what's got Aniku's brain completely stunned. Is wait, no, I'm born of rock, not this goo stuff. This is
It's like you've been born again, Aniku.
I guess so. Well, I have learned something.
The Zom short, right? The Zom come up, and a number of them, and they're bearing your stuff. Each of them has a different thing, so each of you is like looking down. You're all butt naked, and they give you your stuff, right? That
I told you would be my butler.
And so so you get your stuff back. And you hear like a ghostly echo in your mind, as if somebody said it and now you're remembering it instead of actually hearing it. And it is the statement of exclamation in Zek's voice of, "What a rush!" And
did you guys hear that, Zek?
Mm-hmm.
Sounded like it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. It's even stranger than I thought.
And the only other thing I'm going to say is about the forest is that you will I don't think the forest spirit's going to talk to you. I think the forest spirit right now is no longer in a state of crisis and cannot speak unless you were to try to invoke it in some way. but nothing will happen here in the forest unless you want to go and do something stupid like stomp around in it or something like that. But the path out is
Well,
clear.
so actually,
Yes.
what an Aku is going to be.
Speaking of something stupid, everybody suddenly starts talking at once. You notice
yeah,
that?
exactly. Well, no, so we may end up with different paths here. I mean, an Aku is going to be so. Sort of my take on his ultimate failure there was, I thought I was talking to the crystals. Apparently, I was talking to Eru and Uri and this forest. I was wrong. The crystals. Wait, we got to get out of here. We got to get to. What's up with the crystals? We got to go look at the crystals. That's Aneku's.
What do you say, Rund?
What's next from him?
Did you say something, Ron?
Yeah. What's Rund going to do? You looked like you had something.
Runt. No. I was just playing for laughs. Runt is concerned about where things are and where things stand. He explains to Iniku and Azalea. He's happy to follow Iniku toward where the crystals are, if that's the consensus. But he explains that he had extracted a promise from Uri to help him against his own people when the time comes. But the longer he spent with Uri and with the forest spirit, it seemed like the mentality there had its own agenda that was not necessarily the kind of thing that we wanted to unleash casually onto the world. And the notion that the Uri and Eru have merged, but may have merged with the crystal, is possibly a really bad thing long term. But also Runt is hoping that somehow he can finagle his end of the bargain out of them, assuming anything of their intellect survives the transition.
So you wouldn't release it without considering it first, basically.
So what?
You wouldn't release something like that on the universe, at least without considering it properly first.
Well, exactly, and quite frankly,
and making sure that he gets the help that he's looking for.
Yeah, and
properly
frankly,
directed.
Yes. But frankly, Runt is realistic enough to know that the combined biomatter on board the land, as well as whatever psychic stuff is going on inside of the crystal, that really can't be controlled, and that needs to be put down. And that's why Runt basically wanted to kill everybody at the start of the session. But there's still time. So
Azalea kind of stretches, enjoying this maybe new body, who knows, and climbs up one of the trees to see if she can see out over the land to where the crystal was glowing.
Well, if you're going to climb up and look around, and it's what you'll see over there by the crystals where the impact was and the crystal growing thing and all the rest of it. You can see that the place where the crystals were growing is now there seem to be some ruins there, some like all the crystals are broken and scattered. But where the impact site looks really, really different. There is not a big growing tall structure there, but there seems to be something flat and broad and quite extensive that's crystalline.
Oh. Things have changed.
Yeah, and also it looks a little serene, there's not a lot of things seem kind of nice out there, as far as you can tell. Something's different about the citadel, but it's too far away for not the monastery, but the tower that was attached, right? By the ropes, cables. Yeah. Something's different about it, but you're too far away to get a really good look, to really analyze it.
Okay. I'll go back down, so maybe we can go and have a closer look at things.
You guys want to go?
It doesn't like anything's about to try and kill us.
Yeah, definitely. I think at this point, get out of the forest, get to flat plane and try and figure out what kind of a world we've woken up into.
Where the impact site was is now an enormous crystalline face embedded in the earth.
Is it
Recognizable face?
No.
Ah.
Hey, a little while ago, I made an agreement with one of your constituent psyches, and sort of wondered where that stood now. This is Runt, the Minotaur Barbarian. You may remember me from such amazing feats of martial glory as getting my behind kicked by little stumpy people, and also chopping serpents into like little tiny shards of crystal, and also breaking the universe. It's don't play with me, but I'm happy to be your friend. I'm a good ally to have.
Possibly also memorable for, well, unmemorable encounters.
Mm-hmm.
Be quiet. You are a rock person.
All right. So
The functioning of your genitals is a arcane matter that I wish nothing to know of.
I promise not to mutter of it.
That's yeah.
Please do not.
You want some intimidation? He's got it for you. All right then. So what we have is the reassurance, the psychic nonverbal reassurance that the power of our land is at your disposal when you call for it. The bargain will be kept.
Very good.
You got an answer? You actually got an answer?
People like me.
Because, Aneku has been kind of looking at it and trying to understand it, and it looks like a face.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Does it look more like a face than Aniku has?
Yes.
I don't draw any attention to that. I just
other than what you already did.
Right. Okay. So this is a rather mysterious ending, and I don't really need to tell you that the adventure's basically over.
Mm-hmm.
But I would like to let you know that you are all 4th level now. We have setting to work with now. We're not going to just have this disappear. Mm-hmm. Our lands does exist in a new form, and not the form that I more or less anticipated. This one is, like I said, you guys actually managed to pull off the Kumbaya version.
Yeah, from my perspective, I mean, in some ways, everything worked out exactly the way Iniku wanted it to, and it wasn't what he expected.
Right.
So, in some ways, it's
there
perfect.
also remains the monastery mystery.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys want to pursue that or not. But
I imagine that's I don't know whether or not we've got adventure time in the future. I'm happy to pursue that either through play or through just sort of our implied backstory of the next
exactly
couple of levels.
Jump. Yeah, we can talk about that.
Yeah.
So, but good. But yeah, that concludes the adventure of our land.
One of the things that I want to do before we actually close out is have a little coda with Aniku, which is that Runt is genuinely worried that we've unleashed something resembling a god or a demiurge or something like that into the world.
A very, very, very well stated concern.
And if potentially, and if this thing gets in our way. How do we take it apart?
Yeah, and so once Aneku has a little bit of time and can really talk with Runt about his experience, kind of one of the things that that I kind of got that I didn't actually have Aneku fully understand in the process of doing it. In some ways, it sounds like it was almost something from outside of our universe.
Well, remember,
Yeah, potentially.
Your universe is by definition fragmented and more than a physical level. I mean,
Yeah,
Right.
the way I'm looking at it anyway is that to go from dimension to dimension is not much different from going from place to place as far as your, you know, as far as, I mean, the universe is a lot more like the Doctor Strange, you know,
Yeah.
weirdscape than it is like,
Yeah.
you know, a galaxy.
Poughkeepsie.
Yeah.
yeah. Although it did seem like what was happening here was even a little bit more outside the norm than we
Then,
were already
for example,
used to.
going into Kazek's mind.
Well,
What norm were we talking about exactly?
But at least Kazek was part of this universe, right? I mean, in some ways, it's the kind of the impression I got in the conversation Runt was having is that some part of this land I couldn't quite figure out if it was the part that was already here or the crystals that collided were really from somewhere else.
All I had
Well,
to say,
that's a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Presumably, the answers to that lie inside the monastery and the records of the monks. I cannot believe that these coincidences are fate alone or chance alone. It must be their machinations.
And so, therefore, if that is true, then the only answer I can think of to your question of what do we have to do to take it apart is to send part of it back.
Mm.
Now, I got no idea how we can do that, but that's the best answer I can give you right now.
Okay.
If we have to figure out how to send some of it back, that will be what we have to do.
Okay.
And I was going to point out that at least at this phase, there is no forthcoming answer. Iru and Uri are, as far as you can tell, nowhere to be found. Furthermore, the floaty island part of the island is rejoined, and the Zom are in kind of a tranquil state and do not try to murder you, incidentally. You can enjoy, go to the farm and they're farming. You can have a nice oatmeal breakfast at the farm. You can go into the cool tower. We've never been in there. We've been in there before, but, do much there. And the place is actually kind of habitable.
Runt takes some. Runt takes some item of Uri's and ties it to his belt as a memento.
Oh, interesting. Yes. Cool. All right, guys.
Yeah.
That's the end of the adventure of Our Land. That doesn't mean you have to leave Our Land. It's an interesting place to be. Since we're going to do that weird time skip thing. If we were all younger, I'd say, screw it, man. Let's do 4th level next. But
Yeah.
no. So
I'm just worried that picking up whatever it is, like 8 levels worth of powers, like I can't figure out what I do now, like, and let alone having that be multiplied by 2 or 3 times in terms of extra powers and stuff like that.
I have taken a few thought experiments with characters through this already. So I've done it on paper a couple of times to see about it. It's not as hard as it looks. A fair amount of it is
almost anything would be easier than it looks.
Right. Well, true. But it's easy to break down into certain parts.
Gotcha.
There really aren't that many power jumps in question. You'll be adding a certain amount of encounter powers at certain levels, but the nice thing is that you can either choose it at the designated level or choose any of the ones at levels below it of that type. So you can choose from the whole, if you really like a couple of the 4th level whatchamacallits, then you can take those instead of the 7th level one or whatever. So it's really not so bad. A lot of the level ups are actually more like, okay, gain an attribute point. So you're not going to go through the whole process of choosing new powers and stuff for every one of those level jumps.
Yeah,
That's
it
why
seems
I'm
like a
saying it's
fair
easier
amount
than
of it is more like a trade up to a more
Right.
powerful thing rather than
Right.
just adding
Yeah.
on.
Yes.
Which
So
is,
don't worry,
which
we'll
is
take it step by step. We might actually even take a session for it.
Okay.
But
All right.
before we do that,
Okay.
I will actually create a summary sheet, a step by step, so that instead of being paralyzed by trying to make a million decisions all at once, it'll just lay it out in order. Do this, choose it now, move on, kind of a process. I also have some thoughts on followers. So it seems to me when you start, at the new level, it seems to me that you will have amassed a band, and I'll give you
A
the
crew.
rules. Yeah, exactly, and I'll give you some rules for that. I think it's actually pretty cool what I have in mind. So they have not half bad and rules for running NPCs. They at least make some attempts to have rules for how you have NPC followers and have them do stuff. So that's good. All right.
Just to jump back
yeah.
really quickly for a minute to the kind of fictional situation with the land here, from what James was saying. The thing that makes sense to me is with being nervous about that we wouldn't leave because we don't want to just leave a ticking time bomb. And so
Yeah,
that, some of the reasons for exploring here in more depth and doing more stuff here with the concerns that Runt has mentioned, it makes sense to actually dig in a little bit.
It's actually kind of funny. We're suddenly
got.
cursed by a little too much integrity in what we're doing, so that the jump ahead in time has a certain price. Wait, but we wanted to do this back then, as opposed.
Well, that's true, and we could just wrap all that up and then not have it not be a problem.
No, I know that, but the contingencies of play are fun enough that it would have been, you're thinking, it could be kind of fun to do in play,
Right.
So,
well, can we do a thing where we'd like do like previously on, like
Absolutely.
in the Star Wars movies, there'd be this jump from the first one to the Empire Strikes Back to the Return of the Jedi, and there's this implication that these guys were having their wacky adventures in between, and they might allude to something that may have happened at one point, and maybe we can pull that out of our hat.
I completely agree that we can come up with some interesting things about backstory. I have actually a couple of notions about what to do, but it seems to me if we find some satisfying ways to do it, then this whole way of doing things with 4E is looking robust enough that I actually think I might want to make a sort of, transferable package to other people with it. This here, do this, kind of thing.
Right.
And so since I haven't done the bit where we do the levels jump yet, well, now we'll try some techniques with it. We'll see how we do it.
Yep.